So this one with the knife coming down through it was interesting. Let me see if I can't find a typeface that might match that. Let me do a capital S. Let's try Montserrat and try, it's going to be a lighter weight. Maybe a regular, but it's a lot more condensed. So it's going to be taller and lower and less in width. So let's see what else could match that S. Just trying to make life easier on us. We can hand trace that S if we wanted to. Looking for a nice condensed S. Ooh, quicksand. That S could work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Option and drag, create a copy, and see if I can't find something even better. Looking for a nice, and I want to have the S, see how the S kind of comes over here a little bit more. It doesn't stop early, so if I do this S, see this S kind of wraps down and this S kind of ends. So the terminal is right here and it doesn't bend down like this one does. So that's how I know that that's not what I'm looking for. I think that one's a nice match because we can always round the edges ourselves. And I like the little bit of a thicker presentation. So this is Fira Sands' book. This happened to be Fira Sands' book. I only have one way to that. Let's see how that looks when I put this over top. It's not an exact match, but let's see if this concept is viable. So we also have this sushi knife. I can go get a picture of a sushi knife. I'll be right back. There is a sushi knife I found, so I'm just going to get it in the right orientation. I could even trace over the basic outline of this, and that could be helpful to getting the most accurate knife. You can see my sketch. It probably put more emphasis on the length of the blade. That's okay. I might have seen another sushi. There's a lot of different styles of knives. So let me get my pen tool and let's see if we could just do a very rough, basic trace of this. Because we really want to simplify our objects. We never want to be so detailed in our logos that those details get lost when the logo is really small. So that's why we want to simplify complex objects. We never want to get too detailed. So clicking at the apex and dragging, just doing my pen tool practice that I've done all these years. Clicking and dragging. So trying to do it in as least amount of anchor points as I need. And I can go back and tweak this real quick. Just in the direct selection tool. So there's a rough outline. Let's make it a solid. So there is our knife and there's our S. And what I'm going to do, instead of sitting here and trying to use the shape builder tool to cut all around here, all these little edges, I kind of want the S to look like it's wrapping around. So what I'm going to do for right now is I'm just going to add a white stroke. Just adding a white stroke and putting it on the outside. So a line stroke to the outside. So now there's an outside stroke. So I can get an idea of how these will interact and look together. And I kind of prefer a longer blade. I think the longer blade might look really good too, but let's just see what we can do to trace over the longer blade. So now we have a long blade and a little bit of a shorter one. And looking at sushi knives, they're kind of all over the place in terms of blade length, so it's not like there's one specific one that we'd have to use. So we're kind of a little more open-ended. So which one has better balance? I feel like the handle on this is just so big. It puts so much emphasis on the handle and not necessarily the blade. But I do feel like this one is softer. It doesn't seem as... The one on the right seems like it's a murder weapon. It's this long, intense, sharp blade. And this one on the left feels more like a cooking knife. And I think that's a really interesting perspective. And I think it's worth showing it to some colleagues to kind of see what they think. We don't want this to look like a murder movie either. We want it to look like a restaurant. So that could go and determine what blade length or blade type we use. We can also, if that is an issue, we can take our direct selection tool, double click on this and just round out our really, really sharp corners. So it doesn't look as much like a murder weapon. It looks more like something approachable. So just kind of rounding those corners. But it's something I'm concerned about with the concept that I will continue to explore. So let's see if I can't wrap this S going in and out or weave it in and out somehow. So I'm going to do that next. I went back to the skinnier S here with the quicksand and just did a little modification to it. I felt like with the thicker one, when I tried to weave it in and out of the knife, it was almost too thick, and it was kind of covering, the thickness of the stroke was covering up too much of the knife when I weaved it through, so you couldn't tell what it was. So I decided to go with a thinner looking S. So let's have the knife handle be on top here. So that means it's going to reverse and be on the bottom here. So how do we cover this up? What we're going to do is we're going to outline this path. So I'm going to go up to Object, Path, Outline Stroke, and I can right click and I should be able to ungroup this. So I ungrouped, now I have the main knife and then I have the stroke. So I have the fill and the stroke as separate elements. And this is going to really help when I want to be able to use the Shape Builder tool to cut out and isolate items. Let's get the Shape Builder tool. I'm going to hold down Option or Alt. I'm going to punch out this smaller area. So just punching that out, punching it out, punching all this stuff I don't need out. So it's going to look like it's going to come through the knife. I'm not going to touch this because I want this to kind of come on top of the knife. I'm going to go down here and punch this out. We just want to have one ink color used. That would be really nice with a logo design. Very flexible that way. So we're punching all of that out. And now we want to look like this is covering, this is going on top. If the knife is on top here, we want the knife to look like it's on the bottom here. So I'm just going to remove this. We did not cut that out using the Shape Builder tool, so that would work there. And see how a very important distinction of the blade is covered up. And when you have it all as one object now, it's really just one main color. I'm not seeing that really defining part of the blade, and so it's not defined. The blade is not standing out from the S. Let's try something a little bit different here. I'm going, instead of doing a stroke around it and cutting it out, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make these two different colors to show contrast and give it a layered look, because right now it looks like it's just running right through the knife. There's not this layered look where the S is wrapping in and out of the knife. So let's make the S a little bit of a lighter gray color, just to give it some defining characteristics. We know where the S is in relation to the knife. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate this knife because I want to keep the original knife. I'm going to copy, and I'm just going to go up here and do a paste in place. So it's going to make a duplicate, but it's going to paste it right on top. So now I have two of them, and one is right here on top. Now I'm going to select the S, and I'm going to take the Shape Builder tool, and I'm going to punch out the top and everything about that top one, but leave this little section there. I was just interested in getting this little shape right here so that I can make that gray and give it this instant weaving in and out effect. So you can see I may have the knife here fully intact, and I have my S here with just this little extra item on top. Draw a little shape. All I'm doing is I'm intersecting objects to then cut out. So it looks kind of complicated, but in the end I'm just trying to get a nice little shape. I could have just drawn that with the pen tool, but wanted to be precise. So I'm casting a little bit of a shadow there. So that means I would cast a little shadow along the blade. So I could just use the pen tool for this one. I got my Smart Guides on. You can always go up to View, put your Smart Guide on. It'll help you snap a little better to objects. So I'm just clicking and making a similar shadow. Make sure I have a nice curve to everything. Make it look like a realistic casted shadow. So just little shadow casting details that I think make a difference. We can also try this on black just to see how it translates. So I'm going to bring this over, just giving it a copy. And I can go down and do a little trick. I can go down to Edit Colors, and I'm just going to do a quick Invert Colors. And what that's going to do, it's going to make my blacks white and my whites black. So it's going to reverse everything out for me. And I might need to tweak my shadows a little bit and make that slightly darker than the gray it's resting on. Kind of seeing how that looks on white. We could even get the C in there. And this was not part of the original sketch. That's okay. This is when we're still doing some concept developing. So I can even get the pen tool or even take that same font and see if I can't do a lowercase c. And somehow work like a C in there, you know, just somehow in that space. I can even right click and create outlines and then add a similar color stroke. I'm going to increase my stroke to make it thicker to kind of match the thickness of the S.